Hi, Mark here from the Tangent-Bound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangent-Bound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangent-Bound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangentBoundNetwork.com and see if Tangent-Bound Network is right for you.
Sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. A light sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time. Stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. This is the holiday edition. Not really sure how holiday-ish it will be, but it is the holiday edition because I guess it's coming off on Christmas. So, with that being said, hi everybody. My name's Jen. I'm your hostess, and with me, as always, we have Brian and Henno. Hey guys.
Ho ho ho.
Why you guys to call names, dude? That's harsh.
Merry Hanukkah Kwanzaa.
Yes.
There we go. We're equal opportunity holiday folks. So how are you guys? What you been up to? Been a crazy 2 days, I'm sure.
Yeah. Right. It's weird though, because in those 2 days, I talked last time, our refrigerator decided to die. And, we ended up lucking out because the freezer was still working. It was a, side by side. And the freezer was running because of it being cold. It was actually keeping the refrigerator cool, Yeah. So we took out stuff that needed to stay cold, like my mom's insulin and, stuff like that. And made sure that stayed cold, but there was a lot of stuff that we could just leave in there. It's like, as long as it's refrigerated, it's fine. Not produce, cause most of that's fine, but, there was just some stuff that we left in there that, wasn't a big deal. So, we definitely lucked out a little bit there, and we ended up not having to throw out very much, so that was quite nice. We got our new refrigerator today. And, got it all set up, and, it was, it's funny how you don't realize how much you miss a refrigerator, or you're gonna miss a refrigerator. We've pretty much eaten out the last couple nights because we don't want to have any sort of leftovers. Not to mention we don't want to have to keep digging food in and out of these coolers, cause, we bought ice and, we're, pouring bags of ice into it, but it's, you don't want to keep having it open. Plus, like I said, digging it out of there and you're like, oh, this won't fit back in there. Nah, it's just, we just skipped it and whatever. So, it's nice to eat at home again today. So yeah, that was kind of fun. But shoot, there was something else I forgot. I don't remember now. There's something else. I told you guys before we started recording, but I had a telepsychiatry appointment today that my alarm what ended up happening actually was I set my alarm for AM instead of PM, and I just slept right through the time. A lot of times I'll still wake up, whenever around when I'm supposed to, and because of the refrigerator coming in stuff today, nobody was thinking straight, and yeah, I totally missed my appointment.
Oops.
Yeah. So I gotta reschedule that one as, kind of as soon as I can, cause, it's funny because the last time I was there, he was like, okay, instead of coming like every, 3-ish weeks, he's like, let's push it another week and a half back to, and I was like, okay, now it's probably gonna be almost another month before I can get in to see him, I would guess. Psychiatrists are always, or generally, like the ones I've dealt with are harder to get into because specialist, So.
Right.
Yeah. There's that. And I just, it's weird. Like depression's really just been kicking my butt again this year. And it's just, I've tried, doing things to distract myself and not, get caught up in, the stuff, but it's just a heavy beast this time of year for me. So that hasn't been too much fun. So, yeah.
Well, that's, you're not alone in that boat.
No, I know.
Yeah, it is a tough time of year for many people, even people who don't normally deal with depression, struggle with it this time of year above any other time of year.
Yeah.
So it is tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been struggling with it myself this year.
Yeah. I mean, the difference between now and in the past is I'm not beating myself up for it. It's kind of like on any given day, if I wake up and I'm like, wow, I just have nothing today. I don't beat myself up as much about, oh, you're wasting the day, you're this. And it's like, no, you need this. This is what your body has to do today. As long as it doesn't become, 3 weeks of it, it's fine. Just let yourself have that day, basically. And I think that's kind of the way it is this time of year. Is it's like, I know it's coming. I try to prepare for it. As things happen, I try to stay in front of them. And, just like, look, you're not gonna be at your best maybe through this, but it and all this stuff. Like I can tell people ahead of time, hey, if I seem this way, it's because of this, So it's doing all that kind of stuff has, really made a difference over the last few years.
Cool.
So yeah.
How about you, Hannah? How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great.
Good.
I just want to ask Brian, how much of it is the seasonal affective disorder kind of stuff?
I think this year it's probably more than normal because, it's just that the area we live in we don't get a lot of sun through November, December, January. So we've had a couple of days where we did, and I tried to get outside and leave the house and stuff on those days. But I think overall that really, the fact that it also doesn't help when it gets dark as early as it does. Because I get up, a lot of times I don't get up till 3 or 4. So basically I have like an hour of daylight.
And that's it, yeah.
Yeah, so if I saw, like this past week, if I saw it was going to be sunny, I tried to get up earlier so that I could, like I said, get out of the house a little bit to where I can get some of the, just be out in the sun a little bit more. So, yeah. So maybe I'll luck out and we'll get sunny days, through the winter. Although usually around here, if we get sun in the winter, it's usually blistering cold. Because the clouds don't,
for us.
Yeah, the clouds don't insulate the air.
Yeah, we have all of our owners and renters and guests and whatnot coming into town. So work is just the different beast.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, but it's for me, I really try to look at it as the opportunity to be, of service and be useful. And I've been really enjoying being at work because I feel like I'm appreciated for what I do. And
awesome.
Yeah, and I try to have fun with it this week. I'll, shave my head on Monday night, and then because I wear beanies all freaking winter anyway, so it's like I don't need a hairstyle. It's like
it's true.
If I'm skiing, it's like, and I want to take the darn thing off and not have just messed up hair.
Yeah.
And if I go skiing, I'm wearing a helmet. So I always have some on, and so what I do at Christmas time is I wear a different Christmas hat every day. And,
nice.
And that's for fun. And like, even today, an owner comes in and, I come popping in with my little ladder and whatever else I'm going to do. And they're like, oh, the elf is here, and, I really enjoy it. We had things are weird with my boss right now. Not my actual supervisor, our facilities manager. Something's going on. I don't know what it is. And it's just like, it's hard for me not to, be in a place where I futurecast, but we're at the time where we need to start planning. People are going to be retiring or changing, and it's the more I start looking at, it's like, okay, where do I fit in all of this? And it's like, I don't want to see everything disrupted, but change happens.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's a lot of, because of, what Sharon's going through with her work and what I see some of my coworkers going through, I start to think about these, when do you speak up? When do you say something? When do you just, shut up and do what you do what you can. And that this is just, that week is just, I think, if I'm asked a question, I'll answer it. But for the most part, I'm just doing what I can. And like I said, it can be a really fun week if you want it to be. And okay, I'm glad I'm saying this out loud because I just remembered something. Wow. I'm glad I just literally said that out loud because it just reminded me of something about our facilities manager and this time of year.
So maybe you can...
It's just like, wow, okay, whoa, ding, 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 ding.
Maybe that's what's on his mind?
No, it's exactly what's on his mind because, I can't, all right, tomorrow when I get to work, I'm going to talk to one of my coworkers and be like, okay, we need to have a big open heart right now. Oh, wow, I forgot about it. Yeah, I forgot about it. I forgot about it. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Yeah, I don't need to, share for anybody else. Okay, great.
Well, you figured it out.
I love our podcast.
Yeah.
But I do understand what you're saying about future casting, though. That sometimes it's easy to go down that path of future casting and trying to mind read and, go when we know something's on somebody's mind. Instantly, we like to think it's us, and
Well, that was the best. See, all right. So this is the greatest example. So on Monday, I think it was Monday, the guy that the facilities manager is having an issue with, I go up and help him with something, and as we're leaving, he gets on the radio. Heno, can I talk to you? And all of a sudden, my coworker's freaking out, like, I'm sorry, I didn't, and I'm like, he just wants to talk to me. That's all, right? And it's because they're having an issue, so therefore now I must be drawn into it, and it's this assumption and as we're walking down the hill, I was just telling him, I'm like, he just has to have a conversation with me. That's all. And I was very happy to have that reaction because it related to what we talked about this week, and just this where I know where my boundaries are.
Yeah.
And it allows me to get out of that thing where I instantly start doing exactly what you just said, which is it's a complete thing from codependency. Is that, instantly assuming that it's something bad, talk about distorted thinking, catastrophic thinking, but, putting, it's weird to be egotistical, like, oh, it's obviously about me, and I obviously did something wrong, and they're going to come down on me, and blah, 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 and it's like, no, it's just, all I know right now is there's a conversation. And as we're walking along, and I told, my coworker, I said, he just came from blah, blah, blah unit where he was working on something. He probably just has a question.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, we got together. He's like, hey, do you think that this could be, do you have something to take off overspray? That's all it was.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
And I walked along because I didn't let it get into my head.
Mm-hmm.
And this happens when it really happens. So I've always considered myself a sensitive human being, and it's easy to instantly, when someone has a bad vibe, to start thinking, oh, I wonder if I did something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so I talked to my coworker about it a lot because he's like that too. He's a very sensitive human being. And when he's getting bad vibed or he just feels something's not right, well, I find it fascinating because it's very egotistical. I mean, it truly is.
It is.
It's massive insecurity,
Yeah.
right? But what it comes down to is self. It's self. And that's one of the things that's part of 12-step programs, is to learn to disconnect from those things. How much control do I give to another human being when I instantly assume that their emotional state is because of me?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm now letting someone occupy not only my headspace, but my emotional space because,
Yeah.
And you're assuming that they've given you the space to have ruined their day, essentially, or made them.
That's it. That's
it's like,
yeah. And the reason I find it fascinating is because I've spent most of my life dwelling in that zone.
Yeah, me too.
Where you're like, okay, this person's in a bad mood. Now, does that have anything to do with me? I just need to know. Well, why? If I literally said or did nothing, plus the fact of the matter is they could have just, they could have opened a letter and had a bad piece of news, or they could have, who knows? I have no idea. And so at any rate, it's so funny you bring that up, Jen, because it was like Monday I came down and I'm just like, and I said, I am so happy that I'm not in that place where I have to take this on anymore.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, is it possible I'm about to get chewed out? Yeah, it's possible.
Yep.
But I'll deal with that when that moment comes.
What's funny is, I've brought this point up to people before because it's a great time for reframing. Because if you walk in there going, is it possible I get chewed out? You can be like, oh yeah, blah, blah, and go down that road. But at the same time, it's like, okay, is it possible that I won't get chewed out?
Yeah, that's the other part.
Absolutely. And it's, at this point, it's probably similar mathematically as to which would happen. And then it turned out for you, it was neither. Well, I mean, you didn't get chewed out, but you know what I mean? It had nothing to do with getting in trouble or chewed out. It was just hey, do you have something for this? It's just if anything, it's the complete opposite. He was actually looking for my knowledge on something. Mm-hmm. It's a compliment. Yeah.
But I could have been walking into it like, oh, this is going to be bad.
Yeah.
When I was actually, somebody was extending a compliment to me, coming to me because I might know something.
Yeah.
Right.
How awesome is that, right? So the reframe is a perfect way of looking at it.
I had a manager, at the one video store I worked at, that it was just me and him working, and he goes, hey, can I talk to you up here for a minute? And I'm like, because of the same thing. I'm automatically assuming that I did something or whatever, and I get up there, and I'm like, yeah, what's up? And, he's like, hey, I'm new to this area. He's like, where's a good place for me to take my family for dinner? And it's like, totally. I walked up there thinking I'm going to probably get a write-up or something along those lines. And it couldn't have been further from the truth. It was, he just didn't want to yell it across the store, and he was talking to his wife on the phone, so that's all it was. He was just, and, but, like you said, that's the way I always was too. It's the same thing. If someone around me is upset, it's like, did I do it? And,
and being, I'm always going to have that because I have, it's part of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to just unwind it, but I try my best not to do that. And it's freeing, right? So it's this interesting paradox when I stop putting my life into the hands of people around me, I get this freedom, and that's where for 12-step program, the whole idea of a higher power goes.
Yeah.
And this is, and for those people that don't understand, all right, this is where I can actually understand real religious people. And when they talk about just give it to Jesus or however they want to call it,
yeah,
it's their way of saying there's nothing I can do about this right now, so I'm not going to think about it.
Right.
Right? But they use the term, I'm giving this to Jesus, or I'm turning it over to my higher power, or, I'm giving it to Buddha. But the whole point is I'm giving it to somebody else. And I don't have to burden myself with this at this moment because this higher power has it for me. Yeah. And that allows me to go on with the clear thought process, not taking on other people's baggage, basically.
Right.
So that's the idea of how this works with a 12-step program, and it allows me to understand more when you see that whole, Jesus will save you kind of stuff, is because, they're talking about that, where you say, I don't have to have fear in my life anymore of what's going to happen tomorrow, because it's not because what's going to happen tomorrow is, so what's going to happen tomorrow is still going to happen, but I don't have fear over it occupying my day because I've given it to an imaginary thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so that's the concept of higher power and how, from my standpoint, it works on a practical basis. Like this, we have the sayings, it's called the promises in our sobriety handbook. And, it talks about the fear of economic security will leave us. And when I first read it, I thought, oh, great, I'm going to be economically secure. No, that's not what it means. It means I'm not going to be in fear anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Economic, right? And so, yeah, anyhow, sorry, I just went on tangent.
No,
it's cool.
Yeah, I'm what I really want to just say is I'm really grateful for both of you. And, I'm this time of year, I love to fill my heart with gratitude for the people that I love and anyone that listens to this show. I appreciate that you listen to the show. And with that, I'll pass.
That's awesome. Yes, thank you. And, I'm very grateful to have the show as well and you guys, because it's been very helpful on many, 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 many occasions.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah.
But, so, yeah, the last couple of days, I've just been working my little hiney off, as usual. We can't catch a break, but, a couple things happened, and unfortunately I had to put in a couple really long days, and I've got a ton of stuff that needs to get done around the house. My brother's coming to stay with me for the weekend, and I haven't even started cleaning. Still got gifts to wrap. And yeah, still got a bunch of stuff I got to get done. Started getting overwhelmed. That's when I stopped myself and said, you know what? It's my brother.
Nice.
Me.
Nice.
Doesn't love my house.
Yeah.
He loves me.
Yeah. Yes. Nice.
He's going to be over on Friday night. Most likely my husband's going to be working, or even if my husband's not working, we have nothing going on. My brother can help me wrap gifts.
Right.
I love hearing this.
Yes. So he can help me wrap gifts. He can help me put together some gifts that need to be put together and stuff like that. If my house isn't clean, yeah, he may make a comment or two because we're siblings. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not going to love me any less if the bathroom is messy.
Right.
He's not going to love me any less if the vacuum has not been run.
Yeah.
And I stopped and I thought about that. I'm like, I'm getting caught up in the minutia, and I'm not appreciating what I love about the season and what it means to me. I'm getting so caught up in my day-to-day, going to work, coming home, getting my sleep, and trying to hold it all together. I'm getting caught up in that, and I'm not stopping and going, you know what? This is my favorite season. This is my favorite time of year. I love Christmas. I've only had my Christmas tree on 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
You know, I've only watched a couple Christmas movies. I need to stop and stop worrying about it and appreciate the fact that everyone wants to see me and hang out with me because of me, not because of the outfit I'm wearing, not because of the gift I'm bringing, not because of the food I'm carrying, because they like and love me. And all I have to do is be me, and I will fulfill everybody's expectations of me. So, and it's, when I came to that conclusion, all of a sudden I got much lighter this morning, and I put my Christmas music on in the car, changed my station to my Christmas music. I went into work, and, you know, we are having fun teasing one of the bah humbug guys who likes to pretend he doesn't like Christmas, but really likes Christmas. And, you know, all of a sudden I felt lighter, and it felt much better. And that's what I need to focus on. And, so that's my goal, is to kind of just give myself the room to be human and be okay with that.
Nice. I just feel like being on. Preach on, sister.
Yeah.
It's the truth. I mean, there's just so much truth there.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
It was a tough one for me to get to this year.
Yeah.
But I got there, that's the important part.
That's huge. That's win for the week.
Yeah. So I'm very, and all of a sudden now, instead of dreading my brother coming to visit me for the weekend because of all the stuff I have to do before he gets here, all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? No, I can look forward to it now because I'm going to have an extra set of hands to help me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
There's the reframe. Is, you know.
Yep.
There it is.
Instead of focusing on what you don't have done, you're looking at, you know, how this is going to be helpful, and it'll be easier to get things done now. So it's, you know, and as far as the other stuff, like you were talking about, you know, only having your tree on a couple times and only seeing a few movies, it's like, you know, it just might be one of those years where you just have to be grateful that you had time to watch the few that you did. And, you know, sometimes you just got to rein your expectations in because, you know, lifed you, you know.
Yeah.
So it's
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it looks like maybe I'll have Saturday, Sunday, Monday off, and then most likely I'll have next Tuesday off, which would be nice because then I'm double booked. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday I'm double booked, and Tuesday I have nothing. So I'm hoping that I don't have to work Tuesday, so I can just have a quiet day with me and my husband.
Yeah.
So that's the goal. And that would be lovely. That would be my favorite Christmas gift, if I could just have a quiet day of just me and my husband, not having to do anything, not having to rush around, not having to worry, and just kind of just be.
Yeah.
Should be nice.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I like it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, well, yeah, so that's my 2 days, and I guess we can get going on our article for the day, which is, because we are coming up on, but this is going to probably post on Christmas Day, so a lot of the Christmas gatherings probably have already happened, but we have New Year's gatherings and other things coming up. So 10 must-know tips for making better conversations. So how often are we in situations where we're trying to make conversation and it's awkward and you feel uncomfortable and they feel uncomfortable and you don't know what to say and they don't know what to say, and so you end up going, so it's been chilly outside, right? So.
How's that weather?
Yeah.
It's
freaking snowing. It's cold.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh,
how's that weather? How's your favorite team doing in sports? You know, yeah. The defaults that we try to go to? Well, here's some different things that can help. Number one, listen to what the other person is saying. If you're too focused on what you should say next, you'll miss out on the opportunities to follow up on good talking points right there in front of you. These could be areas of similarity between you and a person you just met, such as having the same birthday, or lead-ins that your spouse provides, which give you the opportunity to find out more. Either way, you'll seem like someone who really has an interest in the other person, and you'll also come up with further conversation topics.
Yeah, that's something you should strive for all the time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Is when you're talking with somebody, don't wait for your place to jump in, but actually listen to them. That's what makes a conversation. When all you're doing is like waiting for them to shut up so you can talk, that's not really, you're not really having a conversation at that point.
Yeah, you're taking turns speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't wait for your turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And utilize, that's something that we often overlook, is utilize your support people. Your spouse, your friend. So if there's anyone else in the conversation, a lot of times they will give you opportunities to, whether they're during an introduction. So like, yeah, this is so-and-so. They happen to have a dog like you do. They'll give you talking points.
Right.
And they'll help you out if you're paying attention. If you're really listening for it, you'll hear them. So, express yourself openly and honestly. People can sniff out insincerity pretty well. And if you're covering up, they'll feel less like confiding in you. Yeah.
Yeah, that it's interesting. I was talking to my general manager today about that we need to do some sort of either sexual harassment or just general harassment training. It's with everything that's gone on, and he was asking what my experience with it was, and this and that, and we were talking about these ideas of like when complimenting someone, and he likes to put on the big smile, and I hate to say it, but it comes across as insincere to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's this huge, like, oh, you look so, and it's that. So with what's going on with all the harassment training is the fear of having a compliment be taken the wrong way or blah, blah, blah. And John told me, he's like, but I love to do that. I love to, hand out these compliments and stuff. And I didn't say it. I was just thinking to myself, which is that, yeah, but are they true? Is it the truth?
Yeah.
Or is it just the show? Because I agree with that about that. I mean, I can just tell when someone is just
not
slathering it on. It's not sincere.
Right. Yeah, and that thing was totally right too. Because if I feel that way about a conversation I'm in, I'm gonna start shutting the conversation down.
Absolutely.
If I feel like somebody's being fake or just only talking because they feel like they have to. I'm just, I'd just rather stand there being quiet. I don't like making small talk for the sake of making small talk,
Yeah.
And it's tough. Especially when it comes to like family functions and stuff.
Yeah.
You see people once or twice a year. Mm. It's difficult sometimes to find those connectors.
Yeah.
Other than, hey, we're related.
Yeah.
So it gets a little tough sometimes. But number 3, avoid making judgments. No matter whether the person you're talking to is a romantic partner or relative stranger, if you come across as judgmental, the other person will feel less like confiding in you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Try very hard, regardless of your personal feelings on a matter, try to be as non-judgmental as possible. Number 4, look for obvious cues as conversation jumping off points. People you don't know that well may reveal features about their interest or background just by what they're wearing. Someone wearing clothes with a sports team logos gives you the opportunity to ask about their fan allegiance, which can make for a particularly interesting conversation of the sports team from another city or country. Unusual or particular artistic jewelry is another possible conversation starter.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of animals and pets. So I usually try to look for, cues or conversation notes, or if someone mentioned something along those lines, I try to, bring up that in the conversation, because that's usually a pretty safe topic for me.
Yeah.
Kids can also be a very safe topic for the most part. My problem is I don't really care too much about people's children, so I have to find that common ground. Otherwise I'll be stuck talking with someone hearing endless stories about how wonderful their child is, which is, fabulous. I'm glad they have a wonderful child. I just don't need to hear every single story about it. But hey.
Right.
Being a good listener.
Yeah.
But I think that's why we end up sticking to, topics that are, like the weather and geography and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Because it's, at least there's one thing I have up where I live is always a great lead-in question is, did you grow up here? Have you been here? Where are you from? Very few people are actually from here.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, when did you move here? And it gets you into, into other conversations as a result of it. Cause then, like you said, you find out something, you get a clue, whatever it is.
Yeah.
They use we or whatever. It's like, are you married or, whatever. But, but I think that's why we use a lot of those real generic topics. Because unless you do have that person that kind of gives you that lead in, which I love. I personally love it when, I think I have a love-hate relationship with when someone comes up, introduces me to someone and says, oh, he's a guitar player too. And then I'm like, oh, okay. Like I've instantly this has been pigeonholed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also, they just went out of their way to say that, hey, you guys have something in common.
Yeah, to help you get the conversation.
Right? I'm never quite sure how to feel about that.
Yeah.
And I try to do that for the most part. I do try when I'm introducing people. I try to give them a lead-in, or I try to give them a little something that they can start talking about, something they have in common. Yeah. But I get what you're saying. Is sometimes it can be a little bit forced or a little uncomfortable too. So you kind of have to find that fine balance.
My favorite is I had something similar to that happen where I got introduced to somebody one time and they were like, oh, they went to school for art too. And I go, oh, well, what did you take? Because, there's many facets of art. And they're like, oh, I'm a fine art major. I really like doing abstract sculpture. And I'm like, oh, because it's definitely not one of my favorite things. Because a lot of that stuff is, very art schooly, and that's the nicest way I can put it. So, I'm like, oh, and I'm terrible at hiding when I have that feeling. And they're like, oh, you're not a fan? And I was like, I went for graphic design. So even though really I wanted to go into illustrations, like, I'll just tell them I went for graphic design because that's a whole different world than the other, but, yeah, I know.
There's also those people though that don't give you the lead-in and don't even try to help you.
Yeah.
The jerks of the group, shall we call them? Yeah. Like my husband. If I run into somebody and I can't remember their name, you can do the usual trick with your partner, You're like, hey, how's it going? Da, 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 da. And when you don't introduce them, they introduce themselves to get the person's name. So then, it's a nice little tag team. Yeah, my husband won't play. He'll let me hang out there and blow in the wind because he will not help me in the least because he thinks it's hilarious to watch me struggle.
I have gotten to the point now that I actually don't try to figure it out. I can't remember where it was. There was some point last year I was talking with somebody and I absolutely could not remember their name. And I just looked and I was like, I'm going to be honest. I cannot remember your name. I remember you, but I cannot remember your name. And they were like, oh, it's blah, blah, blah. And I was like, thank you. I was like, I don't know why, but I just blanked and boom.
At least you owned it. That's awesome.
And I'll tell you what, I've done it a few times since and there's no pressure. I haven't had a person go, look at me funny or get mad or what. It's like, because we all forget people's names, And
right.
now it would be different if it was someone I interacted with all the time. Then, I might play the game a little bit more because I'll be like, man, I'm going to feel really bad if I can't remember them, but if it's somebody I think the person that I saw was someone that used to come into the one video store I worked at, and it had been, 14 years or whatever since I worked there, and it's like, I remember you, but I cannot remember, and then as soon as they say it, I'm like, yeah, and in fact, the first one, the guy said his first name, and I then gave his last name. So I proved that I knew who it was, but it was just the idea that I just to cut through all that awkwardness. Cause otherwise, like, you can spend 20 minutes trying to find out someone's name, and, only to find out it's Dolores. It's a Seinfeld reference. But yeah, it's a really weird situation though, to walk through when you can't remember somebody, or like you said, somebody will introduce you and just be like, hey, this is so-and-so, and they just walk away and you're like,
right.
All right. Or they'll be like, hey, Brian, this is Frank, you guys have a lot in common. I'm going to leave you two alone. And they just walk away and you're like, so well, we're both guys. All right.
Right.
We're both guys. Well, I get a lot of, because I'm in a small town, there's a lot of faces that I know.
Yeah.
Then it's just a matter of, where do I know it?
Yep.
Where do I know them? Am I a client? Am I a customer? Am I, do we have mutual friends? What is it, right? And I love that idea of just being honest and saying, okay, I know you, but I don't remember where.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Yep.
You
can even take it one step further and go, I am terrible with names. Because, it's not true in my case. I'm usually really good with them, but, they don't know that.
That's when they turn to look and you're like, I'm your mother.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, that's right.
Huh? I'll tell you, one of my favorite icebreakers always was, or it's not really an icebreaker. Well, it is, but there's been times where, like, we've been at a bar or somewhere, and if I hear someone say that they moved to Toledo, Ohio, I'll be like, why did you move to Toledo? Because it's not Pittsburgh or Chicago or, and it's not, we're close to Detroit and we're not too far from Cleveland and, but it's the idea that Toledo is a good sized city in the state of Ohio and such, but it's not like a major city across the country.
Destination city.
Yeah, and it's like, why did you come here? Because I don't know what would draw you here. So I always do that because I want to hear the story. We were at a bar one time and the guy sitting next to us was like, yeah, he's like, I moved up here from Florida. And I'm like, why did you move here from Florida? And he's like, girl, I'm like, okay. Like, and then it was like, well, we got to hear the story because, you got to hear the story at that point. But that works very well for breaking the ice, actually. And it's generally not that I'm talking with the person. A lot of times I'll just hear somebody say it, like if we're at a bar or something, and I would just be like, why did you move here? I'll just look right at them and, and it isn't that I'm like trying to dump on Toledo. It's just, like you said, it's one of the things I asked when I was a little kid. I remember asking my grandma why they moved here from, West Virginia, or asking my dad, I'm sorry, not my grandma, because I just didn't understand why you would.
What made you choose this city?
Yeah. Versus again, a bigger city, or because a lot of times, I assume it's for work, so it was kind of like, well, why, and then you find out like Toledo had a lot of, like manufacturing jobs. And so a lot of people moved to this area because of that, or they moved here and ended up working in Detroit for some part of the auto industry or something. And they just live here because it was cheaper, so, that's why I said, and that's usually what I assume it is that somebody's parents moved here because of, work. But yeah.
Well, another thing you can do is stay on top of the news and store some of it away so that you can chat about it later. Big caveat on this one. Stay away from politics unless you are sure that it will not lead to an argument. Jax agrees with me.
Yeah. Jeez.
Excuse me a moment.
But you have to be very, very careful with this one, because you never quite are 100% sure what you might be walking into.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, definitely. Honestly, this time of year especially, I would just avoid that, you know?
Your favorite sitcom and stuff like that, you can try going on those paths more than maybe the news, but,
yeah,
you know, see what they...
Because I'm the type of person that would generally talk, you know, politics with people or whatever. But if someone brings it up at like a family thing, especially around Christmas, I'm usually like, yeah, I don't want to get into it. You know, like let's just not do that. You know, if you want to have like a friendly back and forth about our sports teams or something like that, sure. I don't, you know, that's fine. But I don't want to, you know, the other just leads to too much arguing and animosity. And then, you know, you got to sit the rest of the night like, you know, like you're glaring at each other from across the room or something. You know? It's just a bad idea. Especially if you're not part of that family, as far as like, it's not your family, it's you're there with like a spouse or a friend. It's like, definitely stay away from these topics.
No, come up with agenda. Just as meetings run more smoothly with a predetermined set of topics, your social conversations could benefit by similar planning. If you know you'll be in a car with your carpool buddy for an hour, think of 3 or 4 things you think would be fun to kick around. With your romantic partner, similarly, constructing a list of items you can cover at dinner could also keep the conversation alive. But
and
caveat with this one. So it's a caveat with this one. Don't make it an interview. Make it a conversation.
Right. I was actually going to say I highly suggest writing it on note cards. That way it totally looks spontaneous. Actually, the one thing I do want to say about this is, although that is a good idea, make sure you know yourself in that if you're the type of person like me who, when I start planning, I start obsessing. So I have to be careful that I don't try to break down, well, if they say this, then I'll ask this, and that, you know, to where you're actually mapping the whole conversation.
Yeah.
And for 2 reasons. One, it drives you crazy. Secondly, it will come off less genuine because it'll feel like you practiced and rehearsed the whole thing. So, you know, it won't be as good of an idea. But as far as, you know, like that says that, you know, that's a good idea. Just, you know, come up with 2 or 3, or you can go on Google. There's all sorts of conversation starters, like questions to ask and stuff, you know. So.
Well, yeah, just be careful. You don't want it to be an interview. You know, you don't want questions to be too pointed or too, you know, you want it to seem natural, you know.
Yeah.
Number 7, don't be scared by silence. Oh, silence is a very powerful tool. Quiet interlude in an otherwise lively conversation doesn't necessarily mean your relationship is doomed or that you've become uninteresting. Sometimes a little break can give each of you a chance to refocus. Yes.
Well, and also sometimes conversations just end. You know, like you don't have to start another one. It's like, okay, well, we've talked for 10 minutes. That's fine. You know, like it doesn't have to be, oh, we have to keep filling this time. You know, it's, you know, I know we as humans, we have this feeling of doing it, especially if you're a person who is a people pleaser, or if you're the hostess of the party, you're going to feel like you have to keep people entertained, essentially, you know, keep them happy. And, you know, when you do that, you know, you're just going to be saying like really dumb stuff probably to just fill the air. You know? Like,
it's true.
My mom always gets mad at me when she'll have a party at her house and she'll invite me and I'll go, and, you know, lots of her friends and stuff were there, and we start talking and I'll be talking with her friends and I'll talk with her friends about my mother, because we have nothing else in common. And my mom told me, she's like, oh, don't talk about me, you know, you can, I looked at her, I'm like, Mom, what else would you like me to talk about with these people? I mean, they're very nice people, don't get me wrong, you know, I have no problems with them, but we have nothing in common other than you. So guess what? You're going to be the topic.
And the purpose for a lot of these isn't that, like, you know, oh, hey, Brian, you know, meet so-and-so. They're a Detroit Lions fan too, you know. The whole point isn't necessarily to be that we're going to talk about the Lions for the whole time. It's just, as we're talking, maybe we'll find out that, you know, we both are really passionate about football, and then we talk more of the game overall, or, you know, you know, those kind of things, to where, you know, the conversation can expand and grow. Yeah, because, you know, sometimes when, you know, you're in those conversations, you're like, oh, why'd I go down this road? You know, because you realize it's just somebody who is just way too into something and you're not that into it.
Sometimes you can find yourself those little like conversation potholes where you're just kind of like, oops.
My favorite is when I'm with a group of guys sometimes and they'll start talking like cars, like engines and all this stuff. I don't have a clue about that stuff. And I'll just be like, oh yeah, it sounds powerful. And they'll say something sometimes and I'll just be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Cause I don't, you know, and I'm not going to pretend it because they'll know I'm lying, you know, like, cause if they know what they're talking about and I'm like, oh yeah, you know, I put the 6 in the 4 and and they're like, what are you talking about? You know, like, oh, that's not how you guys say it up here. Oh, where I'm from, that's how we talk. No good.
But yes, in silence, you know, you read your silence appropriately, because sometimes the silence is just a little break. Yeah. Sometimes it's an opportunity to exit conversation. Note whether the other person would like to break off the conversation. You know, watch their eye line. If they've stopped looking at you directly in the eye and starts, you know, their eyes start wandering a bit, usually it's a clear signal that they need to move on.
Yeah, that they're just being nice at this point.
Yeah. And it really is, you can just easily say, it was nice to talk to you, or it's nice to meet you, or blah, blah, blah. It's, you know, when you get to that point in the conversation, you don't have to wait for that uncomfortable silence, especially when if you're at a crowded party or if you're, you know, if there's a lot of people around, it's easy to break off.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. But I think a key to it is having a plan.
Yeah.
Kind of a plan for it, you know, like and I think that's why these are good tips, is because you're going to get into situations, and how great is it to already have like 5 things that you can say when you have your first uncomfortable silence. You know, like, it was really great to talk to you. I'm going to go find a bathroom, or you know, and it's not to be rude, it's not to leave or anything, but it's just to have something to just kind of put a little period on it.
Yeah. Because
I need to refresh my drink.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Or, hey, I'm going to go stand over there right now.
I was just going to say, it would be like, look!
Yeah, exactly. Smoke bomb!
Squirrel!
Yeah.
Smack them upside the head.
Yeah.
You know, I see so-and-so over there. I was meaning to talk to them. I'll be, you know, it was really nice talking with you. Yeah. And then exit stage left.
Oh, no problem. I'll walk over with you. Yay! If that happens, what the move there is when you walk to the other person, you kind of hand the reins to them and then sneak off.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the move there.
Ultimately, keep in mind though, everybody has felt awkward in conversations. Everyone has had that moment where you don't know what to say, and most likely that other person is in it with you. So if you're feeling uncomfortable, they're feeling uncomfortable. So for the most part, they will forgive any obvious, you know, for pause in what you say.
Yeah.
You know, if they understand that you're trying to exit stage left, they're not going to, you know, question you like, weren't you just at the bathroom? You know, like, when you say
that's why I got to go.
You know, you have a full drink. You're like, I think I'm just going to go freshen my drink. They're not going to point out that you have a full drink.
Well, and if they do, just drink whatever it is you have, empty the cup in your face, you know.
Right.
Just
So if they're
also, while doing that, look them right in the eye the whole time you're drinking it.
Don't break eye contact.
Yeah.
Now.
Just so they know you're only drinking all that so you can get away from them. Very important social cues to not miss here, you know.
Exactly. So, you know, just keep that in mind. You know, you'll feel uncomfortable, but know that they probably do too. So they're going to help you to end the uncomfortableness with them as quickly as possible. Now, something else that they may not be as understanding about, be careful about making jokes that are perceived as insensitive. Read your crowd, people.
Yeah.
You know who you're talking to. If you think there might be a chance someone could get offended, don't say it.
Yeah.
You know, save it for the friends that you know won't be offended by it. It just, you know, read your crowd. Know your person that you're talking to, and if you don't know, just err on the safe side.
Most of the time, you kind of just fall under the rule of, like, would you tell your grandmother that joke? You know, now it depends, because maybe, you know, you and your grandma have a much different relationship than most people, but, you know, that's kind of the thing. It's like, keep your jokes probably more, you know, like PG level, you know, nothing lewd, nothing with a lot of cussing in it, you know, just standard good manners, basically.
Exactly. In your choice of words, just, you know, be appropriate, folks.
Yeah.
Well, and that also includes, like, some of the other topics that we've gone over, is just, you know, in that, whether it's politics or whatever that is you don't always have to engage.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You can always politely smile and just nod and acknowledge. You know, the times that I've done that, where, like, I knew where I was and I knew where the topic was going, and it was just like, okay, I don't have to engage in this, right? You know, and it's that would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? And at that moment, I'd just rather be happy. There's no point in, you know, I don't need to argue with somebody. I don't need to engage with somebody. I don't need to say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's also kind of that idea that silence is good too, even from me, you know, like that, and knowing your crowd. It is worthwhile knowing where you're going, who you're around, what they are, what they're like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it can help you prepare for the evening.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I kind of look at it sometimes as a challenge. Like,
oh yeah, it's a fun.
You know what I mean? Like,
almost. Yeah.
You know, it's like, all right, I know who the people are. I know what their thought. You know, they're you know, this kind of thing. Okay, let's see if I can go in here and still have a good time, and you know, enjoy myself, keep my mouth shut, you know, you know, that kind of stuff. You know, like we had interesting one of the events I did when I went during the election when I was running was with this realtors bureau, and Sun Valley is, you know, Idaho is an extremely conservative state. But we're this little, you know, pretty liberal little island in the middle of it all. And this guy came from Texas. And he's got a background in economic theory and all this stuff. Very, very smart man. He's responsible for, like, he underwrites loans and financial products and blah, blah, blah. Well, he comes into the room and starts talking about, you know, tax cuts and blah, blah, blah's this and da, 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 da. And I was thinking to myself, do you know your audience? Like, did you do any study on who you're talking to, what the general politics are of the area? Right? You know, and he had slides and blah, 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 and this, and I just thought it was interesting, you know, like this idea of coming in and not knowing who it is you're giving a presentation to.
Right.
Right. Yeah, you think you would have a little bit more forethought on that.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because, yeah, sure, he had some people agree, but it was a tiny little minority.
Yeah.
It was fascinating to me. It really was fascinating. It goes with that point, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, just be careful and know your audience. I think that's a huge piece, is knowing who you're talking to.
And if you don't know going in, usually I generally will try to read a room before I really get into conversations. That way I kind of can kind of feel like who you can joke with, you know, those kind of things. Like, you're looking for kindred spirits, essentially, you know? Like, a great example, I was at a family thing of Jen's, and I'm looking around everybody that I kind of talked with a little bit. It's like our sense of humors weren't clicking. And then her uncle started talking with me, and it just, boom, there it was. And I was like, this is the guy I'm talking to all day.
That's fun.
Yeah. So it's, you know, but that's why, you know, I kind of read the room, was like, the rest of the people are not going to get my sense of humor as much, you know? So that's usually what I end up doing, is looking for that kindred spirit, and then, you know, hope they don't leave early.
That's a good point. That is a good point, because you can, I think you can find someone that you can relate to, or like that, like you're talking about, your kindred spirit or whatever it is, you know.
Exactly. And then kind of use that as a jumping off point, shall we say, for different conversations and different connections to other people. And
also kind of grounding yourself so you're comfortable with the overall event, I guess, is another thing.
Yeah.
Which I think is really important, because nobody wants to be miserable all night, and nobody wants to be that person that especially if you go with somebody, whether it's your partner or, you know, whoever it is, that person honestly wants you to have a good time too.
Right.
And if you can establish some sort of a positive experience right from the get-go, in some way or another, I think it's like putting a little deposit into the bank of tolerance and patience. You know what I mean? Like,
true.
You know, like to put a little, you know, because I know what it's like when you go and you really don't want to be somewhere and you bring in a bad attitude. Your bank account is empty and you got nothing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get better usually.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
Now, number 10 is kind of exactly what you were talking about, is use conversations with new people as practice for improving your chit-chat skills. So kind of, you know, use it as a way of getting better versus, you know, something to dread. Use it as a tool, you know.
Interesting.
And your tools.
I wonder, it would be kind of fun to do an experiment about how that would go over, is to be in a group of people, especially people that you don't know, or maybe you just don't know that well. And to start conversations by saying, you know, I'm really not good in social situations. And so I'm trying to, you know, improve my ability to talk to other people, and like use that as an icebreaker.
Yeah, you could try it.
It'd be interesting to see what would happen, you know, whether people would go, you know, like, be a little softer, or, you know, if they would react better. Huh.
I don't know.
That's a good question.
It's interesting. I mean, I think that because that's the last one on the list. So, I mean, I think there's some really good points in there. And, you know, I don't know. I think I'll have to mull over some of this stuff and see what I can come up with to really apply for myself and make things easier. Because I do struggle, as much as people think I'm an outgoing person and easy, you know, an easy talk to person, I struggle a lot with starting conversations and continuing and getting conversations going. So feels very awkward and weird to me, you know, and I'd much rather sit and talk to your dog than talk to your kids or talk to your family. I'm more likely to know your dog's name than your kid's name. That's just who I am.
That's funny.
Yeah, I will ask people how their animals are doing. I'll forget to ask about their kids, but I'll ask how their animals are doing.
That's a way also to create conversation and to find out about people and that goes back to this idea of being honest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm Jen. Oh, I'm Hannah. How are you doing tonight? Blah, 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 whatever. You having a good time? Da, da, da. No, I'm missing my dog.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what kind of dog do you have?
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That by being honest, by saying, well, I'm really not that great in social situations, but, I'm trying, or whatever, like that I could see where honesty could be a great way of breaking the ice with somebody or finding out more information or finding out who is a dog lover or blah,
True. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can totally see that.
Yeah. And I think everything can be used if we just think about it, and like we talked about a little bit earlier, is, putting a little thought ahead of time into icebreakers and different things that you can say that relate to you, that feel organic about you to you, that you can use. So definitely, I think that's a good way to start, is to have those in your arsenal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that wasn't in the list, but I think our own way of coming up with that is probably one of the best things ever, because where I get uncomfortable is where I feel like I got nothing.
Yeah.
Where I feel like I'm on the spot where I don't know. And so what a great thing to even, hey, sit down, write a few things down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it is an uncomfortable situation for you. If you tend to isolate, you're not really good with talking to people. Okay. Come up with a few statements that are based in the truth, because then you'll remember them. And ways to, okay, these are my 3 icebreakers. These are my 3 when there's silence and I need to move out of the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. So I don't know. What do you guys think? I think we had a pretty good conversation.
Good. I like the list.
Good?
Where'd you find that, by the way?
Oh, good question. I found it on Psychology Today. PsychologyToday.com. One of our favorites. And it's Susan Krauss Whitborn, PhD. It's her article. She wrote a book, Fulfillment at Any Age. So, sounds like an interesting person. Well, folks, if you
hold on really quick here before you get into that, I want to say something here, which is our show now is available on Spotify. So if you listen, if you listen via Spotify, there's a link in the show notes, or just look for The Crazy Life, and it should come up, and you can just stream it from there. So now, like, if you're telling somebody about podcasts or whatever, you just be like, do you have Spotify? And, and tell them to look us up there. So, we'd appreciate it if you, listen to us there and, tell others also.
Please, please, please share the love. All right. With that, folks, if you'd like to continue the conversation with us, you can reach out to me on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with a G. You can also reach us via email at the Crazy Life Podcast at outlook.com. Almost forgot for a second there. You can also reach us on our webpage at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com. And you, Henno, how can they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Henno. Find me on Facebook, Henno Heiter. And that's about all I'm going to say.
You can also find the show on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod, where I post when new episodes go up. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/Crazy Life Podcast. You can find me on Twitter at Stunami. My other podcast can be found at salty_language or saltylanguage.com. That show is not safe for work. So you've been warned. We're part of the Tangentbound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. So, please go give that site a look-see and maybe listen to some other shows on there. Again, we're on Spotify, so you can search on there. We're on iHeartRadio. We're, on pretty much just about anywhere that has podcasts, we're probably listed there. So, just search for The Crazy Life. If you'd like to help us out, if you're using iTunes, please rate, review, and subscribe. That helps us get more visibility in the searches and what have you. If you're using Stitcher or other apps, please use the like, share, or whatever, their equivalent is, button, or tab or whatever. That same reason it helps us, move up lists and become more visible to people searching. Yeah, that's all the links, right? Yep. So the next part is we're not, doctors, therapists, trained professionals, just three people sharing our opinions and, an article. If you feel you need help, please seek help. Please don't self-diagnose, and please don't, see this show as a replacement for therapy. Again, if you need help, go get it. Go get the estimate, and, then you and your doctors can decide where to go from there. Just because stuff has worked for us on here doesn't necessarily mean it'll work for you. Don't be disheartened if, your therapist says something and it doesn't work also. It's very much a trial and error process,
Mm-hmm.
So, what's the next part? Oh, if you, feel as though you may harm yourself or others, please reach out, to somebody in your support system. Call 911, go to a hospital. Just try not to be alone during those times, and try not to act on whatever it is you're feeling at that point. Just try to get someone to come be with you or on the phone with you until, you're through the crisis. And then again, please talk to your doctor. If you catch yourself, planning how you would do it, or writing like a suicide note or anything of that ilk, please contact, a doctor or whatever and tell them what's going on. Cause that's the, one of the earlier stages of things. So please try to catch it early at that point so it doesn't turn into something worse. And then lastly, as I usually say here, reach out to somebody. We all like to do it, especially this time of year usually. But there, like we said earlier in the show, there's a lot of people that this time of year is really rough on. So if you have somebody who this time of year is rough on them, reach out to them, make sure they're okay. Tell them you love them, tell them you appreciate them, whatever it is. Cause, as I've said countless times here, you never know. You may make their day, or you may save their life. So, please reach out.
Absolutely. Excuse me. And with that, folks, keep breathing, wiggle your toes, and have a great holiday season. Enjoy it. Talk to you later.